Hello, I'm Chuck Martin, and welcome to the Voices of the Internet of Things. With me today is Marco Scognamiglio, Global CEO of Rapp, a global creative agency which is part of Omnicom's group of companies. Marco has been Client Services Director of Tequila, Head of Client Services at BBDO's Proximity, and CEO of Rapp UK. Marco's focus is on helping brands understand the future through the smarter use of data. Welcome here, and thanks for joining us, Marco.
Nice to, and thank you for the invite.
So tell me what the world of data looks like today. You've been in the agency world for some time, so I know you've seen it evolve.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think first off to say it's probably the most exciting time to be in our industry because obviously what has significantly evolved is the sheer volume of data that we have today, as you well know yourself. So that's what's exciting. I think the other piece which really has evolved is kind of the opportunity to actually use data probably in a way that is more relevant than ever before. Because the problem we've had a lot with data in the past, and one of the reasons why, as you know, we have GDPR coming into many countries around the world, is the manner in which is being used and the whole issue of privacy and security. So now with the plethora of data, the opportunity to utilize data in a manner which is relevant, in a manner which is in real time and has the level of security that consumers and brands require today is exciting times, but it has to be done in a way which is well managed and organized.
Well, with the world of IoT, with so many sensors and so much more data, how do you corral all of that?
Yeah. So this is interesting. So the danger is we get caught up with the volume as opposed to what is actually valuable. And I think that's an important starting point for brands because, an expression we like to use, ultimately it's about the one. It's about the individual, and the danger that we can become a little bit overwhelmed by how much data there is. And ultimately what we have to do is say, what is the one or two things that we really want to do to make a difference in a relationship between a brand and a customer. So we do need to kind of almost like demystify and dispel a lot of the data that is not relevant. And I think that's the important piece, is seeing the kind of the wood for the trees, if you like. And I think that's where the opportunities for brands to really make a difference. Because we can all get a little bit caught up in the sheer volume that is out there at the moment.
In this context, what is the role of the agency versus the role of the brand?
Yeah, well, it's a great one. I mean, brand in terms of the actual company brand itself. I mean, the role for us is, we've got to help, if you like, where brands today need to. Well, our role as an agency is to help extract the value of an individual for the brand, and we do that by creating, a value exchange, if you like, for the consumer. And that's what I think we believe that our job is to do. By ruthlessly understanding the individual, we're going to be in a much better place to understand the value exchange that we can bring to the consumer. And for the brand, obviously, at the end of the day, this has got to be of commercial value for them. And this is what's interesting about the Internet of Things, if you like, which is there are a lot of Internet of Things around at the moment, but they've got to have a value exchange with the consumer. And I think that's the real role that we can play, is by our ruthless understanding of people, individuals, and by really, maximizing the opportunity, the depth of insight of the plethora of data that we have today. We should be able to get a place where we can really create great value exchange. And that's where Internet of Things is really exciting. So how do you create real value for a consumer? And the end time, that creates some scale for the client, and it's a commercial value for the brand as well. And that's what I found really interesting. And, and on the Internet of Things, that the bit that I'm interested in at the moment is in terms of how we can help brands is how do we create solutions that have a bigger purpose, if you like, in society and so forth. I think that's an interesting area, as opposed to it's sometimes, come up with innovation for the sake of it. And I'll give you an example is I'm sure you're well aware, the Aladdin lamp. That I believe was on show at CES, which is, it's a product which kind of looks at the movement of light, which is kind of elderly people. So if they get out of bed at night and they happen to fall, or there was a bit of a change in light patterns, it would create some kind of emergency, and the data sensors would be sent back to relevant authorities and so on. So creating real purpose and value exchange, and by really understanding needs of people at an individual level.
So you're talking much more than a consumer giving up information based on location to get a deal at the time.
Yeah, it's about real value exchange, so something that really has a purpose, because I think that's ultimately how you're going to create the kind of the high value experiences, because as brands, successful brands are built through, great experiences more than anything else, the interaction we have. And I think that's the opportunity, in terms of, Internet of Things and the use of data in the right ways to create, compelling experiences that have real value exchange. I mean, a silly one, a quick example, is I'm a bit of a cyclist, and it's I think, again, you know this, OmniSmart cycling helmet, which has a couple of things going on it. One, it had feeds in terms of allows you to listen to music, but still be able to listen to car noises. But if you were to have an accident, immediately it'll send back data centers to emergency services and actually record what was going on. Things like that are kind of developed, so have real value. And then, with that, you can also track information in terms of how much, the calories you're using, the intensity of your workout. So, a real kind of, a number of value exchanges within one product itself with a lot of data sets, which are going to be valuable to you as an individual. And that's why I think there's a lot of opportunity at the moment, as opposed to sometimes coming up with products in this area because it's either fashionable or it's a little bit quirky and it's perceived as, innovative, but does it really have a valuable purpose at an individual level? And that's where the opportunity is at the moment, if that makes sense.
Is this what brands are asking for today? Or are they saying, I want to use voice, or I want to use Alexa or whatever? Are they thinking like you're thinking?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a great question. There's a bit of the former, which is, yes, how can we use the likes of Alexa? So I've seen an example, which unfortunately I can't talk about, very recently in the whole area of healthcare. So there is a bit of that, and that kind of is a bit like with chatbots as well, so hey, or, with AI. So yeah, that does happen. I wouldn't say we get as many questions asked around, can you look at something in terms of bringing real purpose? I think that's more us as agencies, and certainly here at Rapp, driving that conversation, because we understand people, going back to, our friend Stan Rapp of 50 years of heritage, have always been about customers and understanding, the value of data is, and particularly with, the millennials generation, where the purpose is important. So I think through that understanding, I think going back to your question around what do we bring, a real understanding of how could we really create a real sense of meaning and value to solutions within the context of the Internet of Things as well. So it's been proactive, but really driven out that ruthless understanding of understanding people.
So for technology to keep up, do you have a lab or something inside the company?
No, we don't as such. I've been asked this question before, actually. You remind me, God, that's about 10 years ago, we set up something called Rapp Labs. And we did it as a bit of a catalyst to get people thinking like this, because sometimes you need to do that to create a change in behaviors and, and get ahead of the market, if you like. But now it's very much... it's about people's behaviors and passion and beliefs and the type of people we recruit, where we hope that the whole organization is thinking, we have a very clear mantra here. One of my things is that, as leaders in the business, myself included, we have a responsibility to be really actively out with our senior clients as advisors and as genuine friends, helping them keep their brands ahead of their competitors. And to do that, we have to be ruthless for understanding people at an individual level. And if we do that, again, hopefully what comes out of that is an understanding of what the future is all about. And that in itself will drive the innovation. And being really, having a culture which is all around curiosity as well, being curious about what is happening in the world. And even just things like, talking to someone like yourself and, seeing some of the work that you've done and things like CES. I think just people who are just, they're curious about and what the future holds. It's more about DNA in the culture of the organization than having, a lab of mad, crazy scientists in the corner.
So everybody just has to keep up on technology kind of by themselves?
Yeah, it's there's a bit of that. Obviously, we do I'm sure most agencies and brands we very much we'll do training development and send people to be South by Southwest, be CS, etc. But we expect our people, and also it's even people, good people. They want to be aware and ahead of what is going on today, and I think that's to your question, actually, that's just a good part of being it's a necessity of being a good marketeer today. You've got to be on it. There's so much. And the other exciting thing as well is, and I'm sure you'll see this, is, the opportunities to create things that haven't been made yet. That's, I was thinking, because I was on the phone with you, I'm very passionate about the whole area of dealing with child abuse. And I do some non-exec work with a charity in the UK, and I think there's actually roles there for the Internet of Things in terms of helping children around child abuse. It's a big issue, and I think there could be more developments done there as well. There's opportunity there for innovation.
So, in terms of the consumer, are you at the stage where the channels don't matter? That you can track enough now what consumers are doing at home, what they're doing in transit, what they're doing in a retail environment. Whether they're looking at something on TV or their phone or their computer?
Yeah, I would certainly. I mean, that's you might call it the holy grail, if you like. That's exactly where, we want, all good brands want to be. And yeah, I would say very much we're making significant strides in that, and that's what we're always trying to do, because it's an always on connected world. And people talk about effectively about your channels you've just described there. Ultimately, we're talking about, you could say, customer journeys, but every customer journey is unique to you. Your customer journey for buying a road bike is going to be different to my customer journey for buying a road bike. And the only way we do that is making sure that we create an environment for that brand which is always on and accessible. And that's the challenge for us all. And then how do you track you, Chuck, versus how do you track me? And that's very much part of the capability that we, very much are working on. So yeah, there's, it's, every person's engagement is going to be very, very different, and all channels matter.
So
go
ahead.
Sorry, please.
How do you deal with something like at the recent NRF in New York, there was technology shown, and I'm sure you've seen this, facial recognition, where you walk into a store, it identifies you, and then as you go through the store, you're getting targeted message on the screens based on who you are. It's opt-in, of course. Are consumers ready for that?
Yeah, I'm not 100%. I think some audiences are. So I'm going to use a bit of a crude statement, segments here. So I think some of the maybe younger generations are very comfortable with that. So I think we're going to see more and more of it. I think I'd say crudely, older generation, probably not. And I go back to the whole area of, privacy, particularly in the rest of the world, in Europe and in Canada, where, the GDPR regulations have come in as well. So I think there's a lot more sensitivity about privacy in some areas. But I do think it's going to change, and I think I'd be very naive to say it's not going to be an accepted way of doing business in the years to come. And we've been talking about facial recognition. We had a meeting yesterday, and we were talking about it for a number of years. And, we've been working on some prototype work with a client on just that as well. So certainly the momentum is there. I think there's going to be a little bit of resistance at first, but absolutely it will find its way through, no doubt about it. And again, little things like travel. As we know, as we go through airport security now, more and more people that's effectively what we're doing is facial recognition. So we'll become more and more comfortable with it as well. I mean, I don't know about you, which financial brand you have, but on some of the smartphones now, it's facial recognition to get into your bank account.
Where does the smart home fit in all of this?
Yeah, so essentially, smart home is I do think the smart home has it, depending on, I think in Europe there's going to be a real catalyst for change in this area. And I've seen in markets like the UK where smart home and utilities through to utilities including gas, electricity, through to fridges and lighting has been taking a bit of traction for a while. And again, if the value exchange is there in terms of it's just not a gimmick for switching fridges on or off, but it creates a value exchange in terms of energy conservation and so forth. I think they will certainly maintain that traction. I mean, there's a piece of work, if we just done for Castrol through our code, our technology business, where it's been fixed to a piece of, if you like, IoT is within the car itself, which allows a service garage to track the oil usage, the mileage done, the efficiency of the driving. So proactively, oil changes can be communicated back to the driver. So in other words, we're kind of managing service levels before they're actually needed in terms of protection of their car and so forth. So, the smart home extends out to, I would say, more than the home, but smart kind of a smart life, if you like. It's actually how someone lives a life within the household and their actual behaviors themselves.
Are you already looking at marketing to consumers in cars?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done much of that ourselves as such. I think, again, it's kind of, so when you say marketing within cars, I think, again, we go back to marketing to the individual as opposed to they are in cars, if you like. I think, again, this is where IoT can play a significant role. You might have seen recently that BMW bought Parky Mobile. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which is phenomenal. Okay, so that's a good example of, that game. That for me is a great use of, things. I kind of call that marketing within a car, creating value exchange. BMW there, creating great value exchange there by doing that. So, as you're going on, you can find out where places to park within a city like Manhattan, as you can imagine, is a nightmare. And that is a good example of marketing within a car environment, but actually it's more about the individual than the car itself. It's making their experience of arriving at a city like New York better.
So it sounds like some other entity may come up with the idea of different kinds of ads to get to screens in cars with all the new screens coming in. But Rapp may be looking at, let's skip the screen and let's look at how it makes the passenger or the driver's life easier.
Absolutely. And I when I read about that, I thought, you know what, why not come up with that idea? It was a cracker, But it's arguably very, very simple. It's good lateral thinking by the automotive industry, because again, they've really understood, the context of an individual, living in an environment such as New York City, as an example.
What do you see as the role of voice going forward?
The role of voice, a lot. I think it's going to continue to grow because, again, we're going back to Alexa. God, I was walking here back to the office to the call with you, and I was, writing a couple of emails that was dreadfully wrong of me, walking along the street, talking into my iPhone, and then correcting. And so I think, again, it's very much a big change that's happening in society and marketing and the comfort of voice. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. I wouldn't be surprised be able to speak into an ATM, voice recognition. Is pretty unique, and I think that's going to be quite significant change and a good opportunity as well.
And what do you see as the role of retail in this future world? How does shopping look?
Yeah, I think we're all kind of smitten by the success of someone like Amazon, and obviously what they're doing is they're taking pulling the market along as Apple have arguably done with their products over the years. So I see a significant continuous evolution there. And I think, though, the answer for a lot of, again, retailers is to be sometimes, again, it doesn't have to be over clever. You take Amazon, for example, we had a conversation with one of our strategists the other day, and she has a very strong belief that actually Amazon Prime is probably their biggest piece of loyalty, which is effectively, next day delivery. I mean, that has had a phenomenal effect on loyalty of the brand. And actually what that is about delivery. It's all is about delivery. It's about next day delivery or something that you want, as opposed to having to wait a few days. And actually it's got a nice revenue stream to it as well, because you pay. So I think, the opportunity now for, retailers to create better experiences at an individual level has never been in a better place. So I think what we're going to see is, hopefully, a lot of retailers who really have got a lot of catching up to do are going to evolve very, very quickly, because if they don't, they're going to be significantly left behind by the likes of Amazon and so forth. and some of that is about user experience as well. So I think, again, the opportunity for a lot of service industries and obviously in manufacturing, like the automotive, is probably, at its greatest it's been for a long time.
Is technology ahead of the market these days?
Is it ahead of the market? I would say I do believe so. In the main, it is. And so when you say, I'll give you an example probably, for me, if I'm drawing an analogy with your question, is with Apple. Apple did a great job of, usually it's, hey, we'll do the research. The research says we need a bottle of water, which is blue. So we produce a bottle of water is blue. Well, Apple said, you know what? We're going to tell the market they need this bottle of water, which is blue. And the market goes, wow, that's brilliant. And I think there's quite a bit of that happening now, because I think what's happening is as the new technology comes out, it allows us to experiment with things and try things differently. And I do believe that's why there's an entrepreneurial spirit about the whole technology environment, obviously. And I think that's definitely going to, if we as brands, agency brands and clients can capitalize on that, it's a good place to be. I definitely feel it's pulling us along, which is good. I mean, at the same time, we mustn't be shy as agencies and clients must be shy of, developing their own solutions as well.
In terms of markets, do you see some markets around the world, because you're global, where you can try something in this market, but you can't try it in that market?
I would say, I would say it's maybe in smaller markets there tends to be more opportunity to, try things, quicker, slightly more entrepreneurial environments, because being straight, you have less infrastructures, less layers of people to get through for approval. So I do find in the smaller markets, and also very mobile driven markets. So when you get into Asia particularly, which really is a mobile first market from day one, there's a lot more kind of I guess trial around innovation in that area, because it's almost like it's been quite new to the to the industry. Even if interesting, in places like Africa, Africa went straight to internet, went straight to the mobile, didn't go via the PC. So they were digitally enabled from mobile first, as opposed to going the transition that rest of us went through, which is PC. So definitely in some markets where smaller, different stages of development. But the exciting thing in the big markets, like the US and the UK, in parts of Europe and Germany and France, is the great thing is there you can get scale, and ultimately, brands need success today. So when we're going for the business that we're in at Rapp, we're ultimately about driving our clients' business performance. That's how we live or die as an agency. So if we're going to create these personalized, high-value experiences between the brand and consumer, and the Internet of Things plays a role in that, it needs to be successful. It needs to drive the business, and that's where we need to be really accountable.
So do you have to keep driving that internally, or is it already built into the DNA of the company?
You have to keep driving it, and I think that it's definitely in the DNA as well. But I think leadership, you just have to keep pushing it. You just have to. It's part of what we do. And you know what? Honestly, it's kind of what we enjoy as well. You got to stay energized on it, because there's so much competition out there. I mean, from your own, the job you do in the industry that you're in, we have so much competition. It's not just us competing against other agencies our size, but, the smaller companies, the entrepreneurial shops, the individuals, everyone's, playing in this area now.
Lastly, where does privacy fit as we go down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's right at the tip of the spear. Absolutely. We're very passionate about this. And it's, in one way, I would say it's a shame that GDPR has had to come out, because it's told the industry to, get its act together around the use of data. So it's happening, and we're playing a lot of role with a lot of clients in this area. But my cup half full, if you like, or pint half full, as we would say, is that it's also going to create the right environment to say, what, put the law aside, this is what we should be doing. Consumers should only want to engage with us if something is relevant. So if we create the environment where the content, the story we have is what you as Chuck want to hear, or I as Marco want to hear, then I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to ask for it. But if I don't, then I'm not going to be interested at all. So, it's gonna force now a lot of brands to recognize the importance of relevance and creating the purpose for the value exchange. So it's gonna be big, really is big. And also, as you know, under the GDPR from May onwards, the fines are astronomical. So I think it's about, I can't remember the number. I think it's at 3 or 4% of global revenues if they continue kind of falling behind on the standards that are required. So it's a big issue, but we see it as an opportunity as well for brands to recognize we have to be relevant. And Internet of Things plays a great role in helping us get there.
Thank you, Marco, and thank you all for listening to the Voices of the Internet of Things.
Thank you very much.